Hello, friends. It's Casey Hanalei here again with a new series, and this series is going to be called Furniture and Friends, where I sit down with a guest and I ask them to tell me a story while I paint you a pretty picture, and maybe it's something to do with their story. So, all right. So we have my beloved Fern back here, Ferngully. And then, of course, my beloved father here is our first guest in this series, and his name is Dave. And hello,
Hello.
Dad.
It's awesome to be here.
Thank you for coming. And do you want to tell us a little something about yourself before we get started?
Yes. So, I have been in the same career / job for the last 40 plus years, and I am an agricultural insurance specialist. So I spend most of my days on farms, and I live in upstate New York.
Very interesting.
Where agriculture is the #2 industry in the state. We have a lot of rural areas in New York. And
do you know the state bird of New York?
I do not.
Isn't it the turkey?
It could be.
I think it is the turkey.
We do have a lot of turkeys.
Sorry, continue.
So one thing fun fact about me, or something that people don't know, is that I have a second career, my night job, if you will. And I have a consulting business, and my consulting business is called Into the Blue Consulting. And I do team building events, people skills seminars, workshops on communication, do some motivational speaking and some training. And I usually get hired by companies or schools or people to do these types of talks. So,
and I've actually been in a few of them, and they're very team building-esque. So
yes,
they're enjoyable.
And the story that I wanted to tell you has to do with the fact that ever since I've been doing facilitation of team building events and workshops, which has been over 20 years, probably closer to 25 years, it's caused me to do a lot more people watching and noticing of people's behaviors, maybe a little bit of their psychology, and just, how people act in groups and that type of thing.
And Dad does have a minor in psychology, correct?
I do.
So you know what you're talking about?
I do.
Minorly.
Yes. In a very minor way.
Okay.
So the story I wanted to tell actually took place 6 years ago this week and this past weekend, when your mother and I were in Alaska. So as I said, many times I like to watch people, how they react to whether they have good leadership skills, whether they listen, whether they pay attention, that kind of thing.
How would you rate me on the listening skills?
I think you're probably very average.
Oh,
but
I'm
maybe
average?
Above average in some ways.
Okay. Thanks.
So we went to Alaska, but maybe a couple of weeks before we went to Alaska, in August of 2019, I did a 2 or 3 day seminar with a company. And before I do an event or facilitate a retreat or something like that, I always talk to the HR manager or the CEO of the company, and I just try to find out, what is it that you want me to focus on? What are the biggest issues and problems here at this company, at this school, at this civic organization? What do you want me to focus on? So this particular event that I did a couple weeks before we went to Alaska, I was asked to focus on communication and especially listening skills. So
interesting.
Apparently the company was having a lot of problems with that. And we had a great event and a series of events together, and it was outstanding. It was a very memorable event. So the couple weeks after the event, we flew to Anchorage, Alaska, and we rented a car and did our own land
You and Mom.
tour. That's right, your mother and I. And for those of you who haven't been to Alaska, just give you a brief, you should go.
It's full of criminals.
It's awesome. No, it is an awesome place. But there's a wide variety of places that you can visit. A lot of people like to do cruises along the inward or inside passage, which is very nice. What we did, which a lot of people do, is we just flew into Anchorage, we rented a car, and we drove north to Denali National Park, where the highest mountain in North America is. So we probably about a 4 or 5 hour drive, and there's also linkages between all these cities: Seward to the south, then Anchorage, and then Denali, and then Fairbanks are all linked by a railroad.
Okay.
So a lot of tourists like to go there. They even start in Seward and they take the train all the way up. So we did the car. And when we got to Denali, we of course wanted to go drive in and see some of the mountain. We were very, very fortunate in that Denali is only visible about 25% of the total number of days, because it's usually fogged in, weathered in. And we were up there for 3 days, and all 3 days it was very clear. We could see the mountain. It was just beautiful, breathtaking. So there's a road that goes into Denali off the main road. And I'll just approximate, I don't know if I'll have this exactly right, but the road goes in about 90 miles.
Okay.
It's 30 mile an hour speed limit. You can go the first 5 or 10 miles with your own vehicle.
And this is all like wilderness.
This is all very, very wild country.
Okay.
Beautiful country. And they have lodges all the way on the inside. At the end of the 90 miles, there's some very, very nice lodges that you can stay at. And you can be flown in. You can drive in and fly out. You can do all different kinds of things.
Okay.
So, but the one rule there is that you can only drive in with your own car about 5 or 10 miles, and then you cannot drive any further.
Okay.
And you must take their transportation in the rest of the way.
Because of like the weather? Or?
No, it's just the rules that they have on the roads. The roads are very treacherous, very curvy, and they only want their buses in there. Now, their buses are not fancy buses. They're like a school bus, really. They're kind of rough. But if you're going to ride all the way in, the 90 miles, and then all the way back out, you're talking about a 12 to 14 hour commitment. So when your mother and I
want it.
we wanted to go in, but we only wanted to do like 4 to 6 hours. We wanted to go in maybe like a third of the way in and see all the backcountry and see all the wildlife that you see in there. And there's everything there. There's caribou, there's mountain goat, there's bears, there's moose.
Wow.
And it's just beautiful. So
is there like deer, elk there?
Oh yeah. Yeah, plenty of deer and elk. And so what you do is you actually go, there's a bus depot just inside the entrance, the park entrance. And you go up there and there's a big board up there and it shows you when, all the different trips you can take and when the buses leave and all that. So we had our part set on maybe like a 4 or 5 hour trip. And one that would have fit just perfect for us had just left maybe like 45 minutes before. But the young lady at the counter was very nice, and she said, although we don't have a 4 or 5 hour one leaving here again today, I can get you on a princess tour. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't know exactly what that meant.
Pretty princess?
Yeah, that was one thought. I didn't know. But Princess...
Do I look like a princess?
Princess, the cruise line, has a hotel right outside the park entrance at Denali. It's a nice hotel.
Okay.
And Princess Cruises does the land, the train, and the sea. They do the cruises, of course. And so they put their people up in their own hotel.
Hmm.
And she said, I can get you on this tour. There's about 30 people going with Princess Cruise on this bus, and it's going to be a 4-hour trip. And I can get you on it for X number of dollars if you'd like to go. You just have to drive over to the hotel. Okay. So we said deal. So we paid. We went over.
How much was it? Do you remember?
I think it was around $40 or $50.
Really matter,
maybe $40 or $50, but I can't really remember. So we went over there, and of course, everybody who was on the bus knew each other.
Yeah.
Except us, because we were the only non-people on this cruise that they had been on. Non-cruise ship people on this bus, which was fine. So we start to go into the park on this bus. And remember, I had just done an event on listening, on leadership, listening skills, leadership, communication, how you communicate instructions and rules and guidelines and things like that. So the ranger stands up in front of the bus and says, I have some very, very important things to go over as we're going into the park.
Yes.
Some very important things to remember for everyone's safety and enjoyment of what we're going to be doing. And I'm kind of looking around, just seeing if anybody's really not a lot of people paying attention. But the way he was delivering his message really wasn't great either. Okay. So he started talking about safety. So he said, first of all, we're going to be making about 5 or 6 stops on the way in. We're going to be making a couple on the way out. We're going to go a total of 30 miles in and 30 miles out, which is all what we were expecting. He says it's very important that you listen to what I'm about to say because we will be seeing a lot of wildlife. And some of the wildlife that we will be seeing can be very dangerous.
Will hurt you. Yes.
Can be very dangerous if you don't know the rules and you're not paying attention. So we have to be smart out there, and we have to listen, and we have to stay together.
Okay.
So he said, when we're out there and we're having a talk, or we're looking around at the vistas, or we're walking around the little trails, if you see a bear or you see a moose, especially a bull moose, the important thing to remember is do not panic. Do not make loud noises. Do not yell. Do not start running. And certainly don't scream. Don't do anything like that, because it's just going to not be good if you do that.
Yeah.
Get my attention, and there was he had an assistant there. Get one of our attention. We'll all pull together as a group, and we, we'll make sure that we kind of huddle up so that we're all staying safe together.
Okay.
So
makes sense.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I don't know how many people were listening to that, and kind of wondered even as he was delivering the message, but. Our very first stop was probably...
Sorry to interrupt you. Did he say, what the probability of seeing anything was? Or
he said very high. Okay. High probability of seeing wildlife, especially big wildlife. So, okay. But he said it will probably be more as we go further into the park. We'll probably see more and more. So our first stop was literally probably, I'm going to say 3 to 5 miles inside the park. And we'd only been driving, 20 minutes, maybe a half hour at the most. And can't go very fast. I think 30 is the speed limit. So, and the place that we stopped was a cabin that was built roughly 100 years ago. Of course, Alaska was purchased in the 1860s after the Civil War, but it never became a state until 1959. But in the 20s and 30s, a lot of exploring and building of roads and things like that was going on out there at Denali. And so there was a cabin out there that was built by the early surveyors and people, mountain men that were out there exploring, and they built this log cabin, and the cabin is still standing. So he was telling us, this is what we're going to be seeing. There's going to be a cabin out there, and has a big front porch. And so it's not a big cabin. It's probably 20 feet by 30 feet, I'm guessing, maybe 24 by 32, something like that. So we get out there and we all get off the bus, and we have to walk maybe 100 yards in, kind of through some bushes and trees, and here's this cabin. So he gets up on the front porch of the cabin. We kind of look around a little bit, but most everybody's in the front, and he's going to deliver a message about the cabin. Well, he's talking, and people are wandering off everywhere. They're just kind of like wandering. No one's really, everybody's got their cameras out.
It's like a bunch of little kids.
So your mother and I are standing, just picture this, you're looking at the front porch. There's a crowd, this crowd of like 30 of us all in front of this porch. And we are way over to the far left. In fact, I'm the last person on the left, and your mother's standing right by me. And we're just kind of looking at this guy up on the porch, and he's telling us about how the cabin was built and what life was like out there in the 1920s and 30s. And I just looked up, and standing probably 20 or 30 feet away from me was the biggest bull moose that I've ever seen in my life. He was sort of like 10 or 15 feet away from the back side of the cabin. And he was just standing there, and he was just looking at me.
Yeah.
And so,
munching on some grass.
Obviously, I remembered what the ranger had said. Calm. Stay calm. Maybe get someone's attention. So your mother was standing about 3 to 4 feet away from me, and I was trying not to be loud or anything. And I was calling her name, which is Paula. And I was going, hey, Paula. Hey, Paula. And she was kind of like looking around and looking at the guy. And then finally, she looked at me. And I said...
You didn't like...
No. She looked at me, and I just pointed, and I whispered, and I said, big moose. Big moose. And her eyes got really wide, and she looked, and about that time, the moose had turned. He wasn't turning quickly, but he had turned so that his backside was like facing us. His rack was huge. It was I'm guessing like 6 feet across. It was huge. And he turned to like walk towards the back of the cabin. So all she saw was like his back and his rear as he walked away from us. So and her eyes got big, and my eyes were big, and we were just enjoying how beautiful this animal was. How beautiful this animal was.
How tall do you think his butt was off of the ground?
His butt probably about 5 feet, 5 to 6 feet.
Still, that's
high.
So
maybe.
My mother is 5 foot. So
I mean, the animal was spectacular. It was a glorious animal, and it was big. Yeah, that's probably what surprised me.
Were you scared of it in any way? Was it
strangely? No, like if it had been a bear, maybe I would have felt a little differently about it. But no, he was, like you said, he was chewing on something. He was just kind of looking at me. He didn't look, he really didn't, he didn't seem afraid or startled or anything. Yeah. But he started to move away as he kind of was looking at us and thought, those are people, so I kind of want to get away from here. And he just was moving very slowly.
Probably very used to seeing
towards the back of the cabin. So we both were watching him. No one else standing by us. No one standing by us saw that moose. except us. So it went around the back of the cabin. Well, there were some people, some stragglers out to the right side of the porch and out towards the back of the cabin, wandering around.
Be funny if, like, the cabin was so small you can actually see it.
Yeah.
Like, walk behind the cabin.
It was not a big cabin, but it wasn't that small. So, just as he went to the back of the cabin, somebody, and it was a man's voice, but a man at the top of his lungs screamed, "Moose!" And he wasn't even done. He said it again, "Moose!" And 2 or 3 ladies started screaming, and people started running that were standing to our right in front of the porch, started running to the back of the porch, to the back of the building. You could hear the moose running and crashing through the trees. It sounded like a bulldozer was going through the trees. The trees were crashing and limbs were bending and breaking and people are running, and I can see people with their cameras.
Because they're trying to get a glimpse of it.
Trying to take pictures of it, really, but they're chasing it. So they're doing the exact opposite of what the ranger told us to do. So the ranger was still up on the porch.
And he was probably...
There was about 3 people. There was 3 people remaining in front of the porch listening to whatever he was talking about. And everybody's chasing this moose.
Poor moose.
For probably 100 or 200 yards until the moose finally, obviously, a moose running through thick underbrush and trees is going to move way faster than a human. And pretty soon the moose...
How fast do you think it was going?
I don't know, because...
It was fast.
Yeah, it was fast. He was already out of sight when I could see on the other side. So people came straggling back with their cameras, and the ranger got down off the porch, and I felt bad for him because he looked like he was the CEO of one of the companies that I do a team building event for, and nobody was listening to him. Nobody was paying any attention. No one cared what he was talking about.
Yeah.
And certainly no one cared about any of the important instructions that he had given us.
What if it was like a bear or something?
Well, we did see bear later. We saw brown bear. But, if you see a grizzly bear, that's
terrifying.
That could be deadly if you have the wrong reaction. As it turns out, we saw a couple of brown bears. They were not really close to us. They were probably, 75 yards away. There was a mother, looked like 2 juveniles. They weren't like little cubs or anything. And then you have to worry if they're little. But so that's the type of thing that I like to notice when I'm traveling. And we have traveled all over the world and all over the United States. And I always like
Egypt, you've
been to a lot of places, some great trips that we've been blessed to go on. And but it doesn't really matter where you are. People are going to People are going to do what they are going to do, and some people will listen. And I'll bet if I had gone around and done a little man on the street thing afterwards and had interviewed everyone back on the bus maybe or something, I would have seen how many people... Did you remember the ranger's instructions? Do you feel like we did? I mean, the ranger really dressed us down when we got back to the bus as a group, and said, "Look, we just can't have any other reactions like that. That's really it. You're not only endangering yourself, but you're endangering the wildlife. Like that. You're endangering the moose.
Well, because if they charge you or something, they're gonna have to put them down.
So that's my Alaska story, which can always be related
Moose.
to
We call it the moose story.
people's psychological makeup and their styles, their behavioral styles. So
very interesting.
Looks
Father.
like you are doing.
I'm almost done.
Yeah.
Do you wanna?
That is like so reminiscent of how I remember. I have seen other moose in the wild in the Canadian Rockies, like up near Banff and Jasper, but from a distance. I mean, from probably 100 yards away, a couple 100 yards away. This was the only moose that I have seen that was that close to me in the wild. I really like your
moose.
I really like your fireweed that you're putting in there. So the reds, if your audience,
everyone's going to be able to see what I'm doing.
Yeah, if your audience goes to Alaska, when the time of year that we went, which is
maybe there's
late
some
August,
people in Alaska already.
Maybe the fireweed is everywhere, and it's very, very beautiful. It kind of puts this reddish orange carpet down, and you've got the greens of the pines and different things, and the yellows of the changing trees.
It looks about
it's very beautiful,
as well as its name describes.
They actually make a syrup from the
like
fireweed.
A pancake syrup?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know exactly how they do it. I don't know if it's very similar to maple syrup, but they do make a syrup out of it. You can get it in restaurants, or you can buy it in gift shops up in Alaska. We tried it. We're spoiled because we're from New York, which is the second largest maple producing state in the United States behind Vermont. And so we have, real maple syrup. So it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to beat that. But the fireweed syrup is interesting.
So you have it on pancakes and stuff?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You can have it on pancakes. You can have it on French toast. You can have it on ice cream. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Most gift shops handle it. It's kind of expensive for a little bottle of it. I don't think it's real easy to make. Like, maple syrup at home in the Northeast, you can really get, hundreds of gallons of sap. Of course, it takes about 40 gallons of sap to make 1 gallon of syrup. But I think from all this fireweed, I think it's really hard to extract.
I will cut this out. I need a little bit more time. I'm almost done.
I like it.
Thanks. You can have it if you want.
So one fun fact of Alaska, and I mentioned this before, is that my recommendation is to do both land and some type of a cruise.
You guys did a cruise, right?
We did. We, as I said, we started in Anchorage and drove up to Denali, but you could drive further all the way up the Fairbanks, which is another 4 to 6 hours above Denali. We didn't do that. We came back to Anchorage, we turned in our car, and then we got on this train that I was telling you about, and the train went south from Anchorage down to Seward. And Seward, Alaska is a very, very cool town. It's a small city, big town, I guess. And of course named after our Secretary of State who actually did the purchasing of Alaska.
Do you remember for how much?
Then it was like 7.3 million, I think, at the time. This is in 1867. So yeah. I think the equivalent today is probably, a couple 100 million probably. But
Dad is a little bit of a history buff, so
the fact that we got that beautiful land with all those resources and all the beauty and everything is incredible. But Seward is where a lot of the cruise lines, we took a one-way south cruise from Seward down through the inside passage or the inward passage where you go to like Glacier Bay and you go to Juneau and you go to Ketchikan and you go to Haines, Alaska. And that part of Alaska is totally different than the Denali part and the northern part. It's actually a rainforest.
Oh.
It's
Oh.
not a warm, humid rainforest, but it's
just because of how much rain it gets?
Yeah.
Interesting.
And another fun fact is the capital of Alaska is Juneau. That's another city along the Inside Passage. And Juneau is the only U.S. capital that you cannot get to by car.
Has to be by ship.
There are roads in Juneau, of course, but the roads don't go anywhere but about 30 miles north and then 30 miles south. You can't get to any other towns or any highways. You have to go by boat or plane in and out of Juneau, which is very unusual being it's a state capital. It's a beautiful city, a lot of nice whale watching around Juneau. And that's a really...
Is there a reason why they did it that way?
I don't know. I don't know. I think
maybe it's a government conspiracy.
I think they chose Juneau. Of course, Juneau has a big history, from whaling and other things. But in the 1800s. But I think because Juneau was, as you know, Alaska is not part of the lower 48. It's detached. From the continental United States. So maybe they wanted to have a city, maybe it's surprising why isn't Anchorage? Because Anchorage is quite a bit further away from the western U.S. coastline than Juneau would be. So maybe they did it that way. I'm not really sure. But
have you ever been to Russia? Because I know that's pretty close, to Alaska.
Been on the Russian border with Norway. So we went up and over the North Cape of Norway, down the other side to the border of Russia.
Is it like similar weather in Russia to Alaska? Or is it completely different?
Well, it depends because Russia is a very, very large nation. So it has everything from, warm, temperate climates around like the Black Sea and other, lakes on the south. And it also has extreme cold weather, mountains. So it's varied. Eastern, Western Russia is much like Europe, other Europe.
Interesting.
Climate, but so I've not ever been proper. But of course, your Uncle Doug has been to Russia many times. So he's worked there and he's lived there off and on. So
my dad's youngest brother, Uncle Doug, is an astronaut. Well, retired astronaut.
Well, he still actually could fly if they chose him. Yeah, but he's been on a couple of missions. But he's done a lot of work in Russia. So as far as like the wildlife in Russia is supposed to be pretty awesome, but don't know if it's a good idea for Americans to be traveling to Russia.
I don't think Russia really likes us right now. I don't think anyone really likes us right now.
It's controversial.
Just being American is controversial. Okay, I think I'm pretty much done with this guy here. All right, you guys want to see? Alright, so actually it looks pretty good because I have to paint it. I have to paint it at an angle, just because it's a little tricky, because I want to. But anyways, I painted you a bull moose, Dad.
Oh, that's beautiful. Very nice, and that's exactly how he was standing when I first saw him. Kind of with just looking straight at me with his big, huge antlers.
Big, huge wreck.
Yeah. It was just like that. Beautiful.
Very cool.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. And thank you so much for being my first guest on Ferniture and Friends.
Yes.
With me and Fern here.
I've enjoyed the Fern, and it's been an inspiration.
And the company.
It's provided a lot of extra oxygen in the room, which is good. You need that? Yes, it's been good to be on your show.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad you
Hope I can come back.
Oh, really? You want to
Yeah.
come back?
I want to.
Yay! Okay,
I got
cool.
more stories.
Yeah, well, he has so many stories, so that's why I want you back on. So.
Okay.
Thank
Wonderful.
you so much, Dad.
You're
I
welcome.
really appreciate it.
Very welcome.
And thank you for watching the first episode of Furniture and Friends with me, your host, Casey Hanalei. And I hope that you enjoyed this video. Plenty more to come and plenty more surprise guests to come. And be kind to yourself, be kind to one another, and I hope I see you in the next one. Bye, love you. Okay, testing. You want to talk on your mic?
Testing.
Hello.
Hello.
Hello.